Hey, Ralph here. Welcome back to Building Your Brand with LinkedIn. This is part two, the profile. This is by far the longest module that we'll do because this is really where we define our brand. And when you look at what is the most common activity that's people engage in on LinkedIn, it's looking at profiles, and so this is where people will find you. This is what happens when you start to engage in a business relationship and someone wants to find out more information from you, whether they go with a Google search, like let's say that they come out to Google and they search on, and let's say Ralph Nyberg. That's going to take them, typically, to your LinkedIn profile. It's going to take them to your LinkedIn page. And so it's pretty important that, we have an accurate and a dynamic profile that really defines, our passion. So as we watch my browser struggle along here to locate Ralph Nyberg on the interwebs, I'm confident that it will find me. And I'm confident that when it does actually decide to find me, that it's going to find me. It's going to find my LinkedIn profile, and then the other thing that it's going to find is probably my my YouTube page, and that's again another big part of my professional brand. And so this is far and away probably the most important thing that you can do on LinkedIn. Whether that the profile is going to be there regardless of the the level of activity that you engage in. The level of activity and how often people use LinkedIn and participate in LinkedIn as a community and sort of as a social network varies significantly. But everybody has a profile, and that profile is going to say something about you. It's going to define your brand. So it's pretty important that we define our brand in the way that we want to define our brand, and that we own our brand. And it really does start with the profile. I think I'll come back to the Google search here and let's come back to our slide deck for a second here. All right, so when we're talking about the profile and the elements of the profile, there are a number of different things that we can define in the profile. And I didn't want to make this section 2 hours long, and so I just decided to hit on some of the key components: the picture, the headline, the summary, the experience, the skills, and then finally briefly talk about some of the other pieces of the profile. So just to kind of jump out and take a look at my profile for a second here. Hey, there it is. I finally showed up. And so you'll see here that what we see, is at the top when you search on my name. And I don't have a lot of name anonymity. Maybe your name's John Smith, and so people can't find out a whole lot about you online, but pretty much Ralph is Ralph. And so you'll see there is my YouTube page, and then right after that is my LinkedIn profile. And you'll also see there are a couple of images, and you'll see that the first image here, we'll talk about that in a second, is that image right there. Okay, and so that is, when you search for me, that is what you find, via Google. Now, so jump back here. Let's talk about, the picture. Okay, so these are general rules. It's your brand. Nothing's really hard and fast, but it should be a headshot. A lot of people will recommend that it is a professional headshot. As we saw when we searched on me, we got a particular image. Okay, and that particular image is this one right here. Okay, that's the one that came up first, and that is the same image that I use across all of my social networking. Okay, so whether you went to my Facebook page, my YouTube page, my LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it may be, that image is the image that I use across all of my social networking. That is the image that I want you to find when you're looking for me. And as you can see, it is a headshot. It's not necessarily a professional headshot, but it is a headshot. But you have to have a picture, okay? And one of the reasons for that is that it builds trust, okay? When you don't have a picture, your profile is very incomplete, okay? And that picture should be a headshot. It shouldn't contain other people. It shouldn't contain pets. It shouldn't contain your children or your spouse. It should be a picture of you, and it should be a recognizable picture of you. And so that if I see you at a networking event, I saw your profile, and then I go out and now I see you at a networking event, I'll be able to recognize you off of your profile picture. So those are the general guidelines for adding a picture. Now the headline, and again, if we'll jump out to my profile for a second. So let's go ahead and take a look at my profile. So you'll see here that the headline that I'm using currently, empowering professional growth through knowledge transfer and idea sharing. Okay. So, but really what we want to think about with these headlines is we want to make sure that we avoid a simple title. Okay. What you should explain in your headline is, what you do, what is your passion. Okay. And really describe, not this is my title, but what it is that you do inside your current job function. Okay. So avoid simple titles. Take a look, go out on LinkedIn, take a look at what peers, other people in your industry are doing in terms of headlines if you need some ideas, but really define your brand and what you do in the headline. The next piece here, is the summary piece. Okay. So generally speaking, if you're trying to be found on LinkedIn, you're probably trying to be found by some particular audience. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you're using the appropriate keywords so that whoever you are targeting as your potential audience on LinkedIn is able to find you. Okay. Again, you'll hear me talk a lot about value when you're defining your brand. No different here with the headlines, with the summary piece. You really want to describe your value, the value you bring to your customers, the value you bring to your organization, the value you bring to your peers, the value you bring to yourself. And let your passion come out here. What do you do? Why do you love it? Okay. And I experimented around with different formats in terms of how I handle my summary. Right now, I am just listing my specializations at the top, and then there is a description, of what I've done professionally. Feel free to check it out if you would like. I also like to add rich media here to the summary. So a lot of this is, I repeat some of this in my projects and things like that, but the work that I do with YouTube, website development, things like that, the things that I do in terms of assisting and mentoring instructors, but just some type of rich content. I've got my bio up there as well. So any particular projects that I'm pleased with that have some sort of accessibility via the web, I include that in my summary as well. You are limited to the number of words, so you do want to be a little bit careful about that, but it'll let you know when you've written too much. But again, use other people's summaries and things like that as examples if you're struggling as to what exactly you want to put in there. But really, this is where your brand, your personal brand and your passion should really pop right out of that page. So it is another key piece. Remember to use the keywords that'll make you findable by whatever your particular target audience is. And again, focus on that value that you provide inside your professional life. Next thing here is experience. You want to be detailed here. A lot of people say we'll include all of your experience. I've been at the same job for 18 years, so I only list a particular job in the experience section for me, because again, I've been doing it for such a long time. But you want to, you really want to clearly define what it is. Obviously we have our title and things like that, but also include what skills you bring to that. What are your responsibilities? What recognition you've received. Again, if we jump out to my profile here for a second, and we'll scroll down, way down to my experience section here, you'll see here that I define my primary responsibility. And again, I'm a trainer, so that's my primary responsibility. But then there are a number of other things that I do. in terms of mentoring instructors, pre-sales, sales support, consulting, building lab solutions, designing curriculum. And so, I want to make sure that, I define all of that as well. And you'll see there that it'll automatically link my projects. And I do a lot of projects. I do a lot of project management. And so, that is for me, that is a big part of my brand. So I definitely, I highlight those. In fact, you'll see those that the way I have my profile set up, that I list my projects, directly under my summary. Okay. And then from there, I go into my certifications, and then ultimately honors and awards. And then finally, my actual experience. And again, it's your brand. Okay. So there isn't any right or wrong answers here, but, make sure that you're owning it and you're making the decisions and you're defining your brand in a way that, that fits you. The skills section, move my camera for a second here, get it out of the way. You're able to add up to 50 skills. Okay. There's a couple things, I'd recommend here. One, that I probably wouldn't go all the way up to 50. I'm currently at 50, but generally speaking, if you leave some open for an opportunity for someone to, to endorse you for a particular skill that maybe you hadn't exactly thought of. And the other thing here is sort of my recommendation would be to, avoid, basic, simple skills. I know Word, I know Windows or something like, it depends on your industry, right? But if there's basic skills that really everybody in your industry has, then there's no real need to add them as skills here in LinkedIn. And it kind of makes it feel like you're just trying to fill in information. And so, generally speaking, if it's a pretty basic skill that everyone has who works in your particular field, I would probably avoid including it, with the exception that if you are exceptional at that skill. Okay. So obviously there's a lot of industries where everybody has the skill of customer service, right? But if you are absolutely phenomenal at customer service and you are recognized for, how phenomenal you are at customer service, then it makes sense to include that skill, right? So if you are exceptional at a skill, even though it is a sort of a skill that everyone in your industry has, then include it, because what will happen is people will be like, yeah, Ralph is exceptional at customer service, and they'll start clicking on the endorsements, and the endorsements will build up from there. So that would be the one exception there. If you are phenomenal at it, then go ahead and include it, even if it might be considered a basic skill, and let people endorse you for that particular skill. So in order to make this not take forever, I sort of threw in the miscellaneous slide here to talk about some of the other elements of the profile. I do a lot of project management. I do a lot of special projects, and so that's a big part of my brand. And so I'm very proud of the work that I do in a project from a project management standpoint. And so I highlight the projects that I do in my profile. If you do a lot of volunteer work and volunteer experience, and that's a big part of your brand, or awards you've received, education, certification. Now, for me, certification is probably more viable than the bachelor's degree that I got a long time ago. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but I certainly influencers. So people in your industry, things like that. I have a number of influencers. Bill Gates, or different people that participate on LinkedIn that I follow. If you speak multiple languages, that's a valuable skill in this global economy. Make sure that you include that. You can put in a custom background inside of LinkedIn, vanity URL. So, LinkedIn /Ralph D. Nyberg is the vanity URL that I use. Okay, so there are certainly lots of things that we can add to enhance our profile, and clearly define us, our particular brand. Editing your profile. If you click on your profile link, up here at the top, then you can start editing your profile. A number of different things that you can do. I'm not going to go through all the nuts and bolts here, but you'll see you have these little pencils and things like that that you can click on in order to edit particular elements. You know, you can click on your contact information. You know, they give you these tiles that suggest, you know, add language, add volunteer experience. It's fairly straightforward. You know, vocationally, if you are struggling, there's you know, there's help online and things like that for figuring that out. But I think that it's more important that you sort of, you know, I mean, you'll figure out the you know, the vocational piece of editing it, but then really think about, you know, your brand, you know, and how you're going to align your profile with the brand that you're trying to grow. There's this nice button here that says View Profile As. Okay. So I can click on that particular button, and that will show me my profile, okay, as it's viewed by others. Okay, so this is what it looks like to somebody that I'm connected to. Okay. And then I also have on this button here, so again, this guy right here, if I click on that connections button, I can say what it looks like public. So if someone's just searching me out, this is what my profile looks like. So again, you know, I have my corporate website defined. I have personal websites defined. There's a lot of different things that you can do, I guess, is the point that I'm making. And again, I didn't want this to take you know, too long as a lesson. So, you know, start out by, you know, really working on that headline, you know, getting the right picture up there, working on the right summary, start defining the easy things that like your experience, and then, you know, take a look around, see what other people are doing, see what, you know, what might make the most sense for you, and then just keep building out that profile and defining your brand. So I hope that helps. In summary, 2 things about profiles that are very important. You know, be very complete. Okay, so fill out, like I said, you know, be detailed in terms of your experience, honors, awards, projects, summary, and really let that profile pop. You know, express your passion. Okay, you and your words. This is your brand. So I hope that helps, and we'll see you for the next lesson.